Hey there, YouTubers. All right, we're going to do a quick overview, and I do mean quick, of the AsRock Z490M ITX AC motherboard for 10th gen Intel CPUs and maybe one day 11th gen. Now, when I say quick, that means we're not going to go into every little detail. I'm not going to show you how to overclock stuff. I may, give you a little overview of the RAM, but not of CPU. Besides that, in this computer, I actually have an i5 10400, so we couldn't overclock it if we wanted to. Now, that said, this is my fifth Z490 motherboard, and obviously in one of the others, I do have a unlocked CPU, right? So let's get into it. So as you are booting up your computer, you want to hit the delete key. That'll put you into the BIOS. And in this case, you should end up in easy mode. Now this gives you a general idea of what's going on with your computer. Starting from the upper left, you have, let me move the mouse over there so we can point at it. Obviously this is the motherboard that you have. This P1.10 is your BIOS revision. They are up to, I believe, at least P1.30. So if you don't know how to do a BIOS update, we will do one for this motherboard. There's actually two ways to do it, and I will probably do videos for both of them because making videos pays the bills around here. Well, it helps me buy stuff, I should say, for the channel. All right, here is your CPU, and that's the base speed. And then it says it right here again, just in case you didn't know it. Amount of memory. This has two RAM slots, obviously. They're labeled A1, B1. And I have dual channel memory in here. And so, real quick, why I have this i5 in here is if you were to put this same CPU in a B460, H410, or H470 motherboard, your RAM speed would be limited to 2666 megahertz. No matter what you do to it, it ain't going to get no faster. Now you can select higher speeds and it will boot up and go to a dark screen, or it will try a few times and drop the speed down to something probably like 2133, and you'll have to go back and manually set it to 2666. So in this case, the Z490 with the i5, I can get away with much higher speeds. Now, you want to, of course, check the manufacturer's website under the second support on the screen, which is usually, maybe midway down. Under there, a lot of times you will find supported memory, compatible memory, whatever they make the title to be. You'll want to go in there and basically select your RAM off of that list. So if you have a speed that you want, in this case, let's say it was 3200 megahertz, and then I would go through and look at the different vendors. Maybe I'm partial to Adida. I would select Adida, and then the part number a lot of times is displayed there. So then you can go buy that exact part number. Now that should ensure that it's actually going to work. All right. So what else? Xmp Profile. So if you do get compatible RAM, instead of hitting auto, if you hit Profile 1, you should get your RAM speed as stated on the memory. So in this case, I do get my 3200 megahertz. Down below that, storage configuration. So one thing one of the other mini ITX motherboards had, one of these was specifically for the OS and the other was storage. I have not double checked that yet on this one, but as it's configured, the first one is my OS and the second one is basically a storage M.2. All right. You can find the motherboard temp over here. I'm using a Noctua low profile CPU cooler. I don't know if the larger ones will fit on here because I may just try it for the heck of it. And because it's always nice to have those temps even cooler. So here we have our CPU fan settings, and you could change this up to performance. And since I have this Noctua, honestly, it is super quiet. So I'm going to put mine on performance. We'll burn that fan out earlier. Here is one of, I believe, 3 places on here that you will be able to find how to flash your BIOS. And I will make a video on that. So if you're unsure how to do that, check back later and we will have one. Boot priority is over here. I'm not going to mess with these, but you should be able to drop and drag. Motherboard temp, CPU voltage, and the time. Of course, this is Eastern Standard. I am in Hawaii Standard. All right, so we'll click on Advanced Mode. Now this is usually you end up in main, so I've already been in here. When you first come in, it'll come into main. Another summary of what you just saw, okay? So let's move on. OC tweaker. Now, because I have a locked CPU in here, some things are different, okay? Some things I can't mess with. Some things I, may not see. So if I click on CPU configuration, here's some of the settings. And with an unlocked processor, this probably will look different, okay? Now, here's where you would shut off Intel Turbo Boost. Since this is mini ITX, and sometimes cooling can be a little bit more of a hassle with these things. If for whatever reason you want to drop your power usage on your CPU significantly, you could shut off Turbo Boost, and that will also significantly impact your performance. All right, so that's about what we'll talk about. Block frequency is in here. Trying to see if the other setting, if you want to go from 100 megahertz to like 102 to change that up. All right, RAM. So mine's set to Xmp 2.0 Profile 1, so I have the compatible RAM. And this is where I could, one place that I could manually adjust it. So if this was set back to auto, we could use this pull down and actually get some other speed. Usually I use that when I have RAM that I say is not compatible. So if I were to put, let's say, I don't know, 4600 megahertz RAM in here, and it wasn't on the compatibility list, it boots up and it goes to a black screen. I may, have to remove the CMOS chip, and then when it boots back up, or after I put the CMOS battery back in, when it boots back up, then you may have to come in here and manually adjust it and try one speed, a higher speed, and then keep going until you hit that point where it won't boot up. Then, even then, inside of Windows, you might find it's not stable and have to drop back down again. So a lot of things to mess with. Of course, there's also timing stuff down here for those of you that like to mess with that stuff. We're not going to get into that here, but you see all of this. So most of us like our RAM to just, easily, to just basically work, right? You want what's stated on it. And to do that, you got to go to the manufacturer's website and just make sure you get the right RAM that's compatible. Voltage configuration. Obviously, you can go in here and change things up, right? So all this stuff is related to overclocking of really of a lock processor. Unlock processor, sorry. All right, so let's go over to advanced. CPU configuration, we'll look at that first. You could disable your Intel hyper-threading technology here if you wanted to. And I've never messed with most of the stuff. I never mess with. There's only certain things really you need to to use on a computer, in my opinion. So you see this active processor cores. I've never messed with this. This would be interesting to do. I may just do that as an experiment, make another video about it. Chipset configuration. Trying to see where there's a couple things in here. So this one has integrated graphic stuff. And the RGB LED, you can turn that off here if you wanted to. So a lot of stuff in here we're not going to get into, but hopefully just seeing it on the screen is helping those of you that were interested. Share memory, so this should be integrated graphics memory. And if not, somebody will correct me. If you want to change your primary graphics adapter, you can do that here as well. All right. Storage configuration. Let's look at that. You may have to go in here to make some changes based on what drives you have. And this is another place to go to check to see if your drives have been detected. NVMe configuration, usually nothing in here. Same information that was on the other screen. This is almost like, why bother having this screen, you know? They just add a lot of stuff that people don't need. Yeah. Let's go to this one. So here is where you should be able to disable your USBs in case you don't want somebody messing with it. And of course later we'll see under security that you can, add the password to your BIOS. That would really keep people out of here from messing with it. All right, tool. Biggest thing under here is probably this RGB control. And they don't have a whole lot under here, but if you had RGB hooked up to it, you can see all the different stuff that you can do to it. And you can set the speed. If you want to have a single color, you can do that as well. Let's exit out of that. So a lot of things down here you can do. You can pretty much wreck your NVMe if you wanted to. So we won't mess with those. Instant flash, another spot, like I said. So this is the, I think the third spot you can find this. Like I said, we'll make a video about how to use that. Hardware monitor. So if you want to get all your metrics, stats, whatever, you can come here and hopefully find, most of the information for stuff that's on your computer or connected to it. Security. You'll see supervisor password, user password. So you can go in here and make some changes if you want to. Another spot for the boot priority. A lot more detail here though. And this is where you would go if you wanted to enable or disable fast boot. And I never actually enable this because of this, the USB thing. I use sometimes need those. So, and then under exit, of course, if you made any changes, save changes, exit, and all this good stuff. So, hey, thanks for checking out the video. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.